Welcome to this video, which I hope will get students, particularly the online students who are sometimes out there alone in cyberspace, an opportunity to maybe better understand the Tutorial 5 exercise in the Expression Web book. The title, as you see on the screen, is called Formatting with CSS, and you need to refer to that and go ahead and pause your video as needed until you get to the right place. What I've already done ahead of time is download the files that I need. One of them is a file called Gasden.html. The other one is a logo that we may or may not go over in this tutorial. Please note right off the bat that I'm not doing your entire exercise with you or for you, but at least I hopefully will help you get started with it. So I'm going to bounce down here to my messy desktop. I've already got Microsoft Expression Web set up, and if you know this already, it's always better with web design software to avoid the Microsoft Office mentality, as I call it. Don't go to File Open, which is the habit that most of us have. You want to always go to the word Site and choose Open Site. That's when it's already been created. And again, beforehand, what I've already done ahead of time is I've established a folder called Tutorial 05, and I'll see if I can make these a little bit larger for you to see these on the screen. I have a tutorial.05 folder, which I've told you how to make already. Inside there is a tutorial folder, and in there are two files, which again I'll make large. One is called Gasden, and one is the logo. We'll be opening the one that has Gasden there. Now, if by chance you have a different logo there from mine, remember this depends on the default browser that you have with your particular computer. You may see a Safari logo, a Firefox logo, a Google Chrome logo, or in this case the Internet Explorer logo. It just depends on your situation. But there's the folder that I'm going to open up. Mine is called Tutorial. So I'll go back to Expression Web, and if you have trouble with this, ask someone, message me, email me, or come by the office if you're in close proximity. But I'm going to go to Site and Open Site and find where it is. Now on my computer it may be in a different place from where it is on your computer. So click the Browse button. Mine happens to be on the desktop because when I'm doing a video that's just a safety net, even though it tends to make my desktop a bit cluttered. But you know, when it's personal use, I don't really care what anybody else thinks, nor do you, quite honestly. So I'll go to my desktop, and hopefully I'm going to find this tutorial.05, and there it is right there. And I'll open it up. Now again, I don't want to go all the way down. I don't want to dig all the way down to the actual files themselves because it will say no match. I'm looking for a folder. My particular folder happens to be tutorial right there. You could go back up to tutorial 5 if you wanted to and just click open to close this screen where you're locating your folder, and then click open to open the actual site. Now what will happen on your screen, now mine I happen to have the panels missing on purpose because when I'm grading I like to have the full screen available. But if you ever have this situation in Expression Web and you want to get out of what I call the panic mode, you can go to the panels menu and choose an option that says reset current workspace, and that will take you back to a screen, especially if you're what I call excuse me, an exact words in the book kind of student. This will put you in maybe a more comfortable situation. So I'm just clicking on reset current workspace, and that will give me my panels back to the normal way that the book has them. If I open up that little plus symbol next to the tutorial over here in the folder list panel, I'll see my two files, and one of them is called pardon my throat, I don't re-record videos because of my time element with many classes. Go to Gasden.html, that's the name of the actual page that we'll be using, and you'll get a page that's very basic like this, just mostly text. Again, this author does not put too many concepts in at the same time. CSS by itself, cascading style sheets by itself, is a pretty big topic. And rather than throw images and links and such in there, he keeps these very isolated. And I think that's better educationally, particularly if you're one of the online students that may be a bit more uneasy or not as self-assuring as maybe some other students maybe in a classroom would be. This arguably can be a difficult topic for a lot of students, and don't be surprised if this one causes some anxiety. Hopefully you'll be okay with it, but don't be surprised if it causes some anxiety, because you may be with the majority of students that have this situation happen. Alright, if you're wanting to refer to a particular page in the book, I'm on page EW Expression Web 209. Well, actually, I'm on page 206 where I actually opened the Gasden site. That's on page 206, and that's what I've done right here. And if you want to go to the next page box, I'm on page 209. I want to mention this concept of styles to you now, which may be a bit boring and may not be as comprehensible until you've actually gotten into the code itself. There are actually 4 categories, even though the book tends to mention 3 of these. There are 4 categories of styles. The whole purpose about this style thing, you may be thinking, what in the world are styles? Hopefully, you have looked at a small exercise that I've assigned called the CSS Zen Garden website. And if I haven't done this with you, go ahead and go to this, csszengarden.com. And what this will do is show the idea behind what cascading style sheets are all about. Basically, when people are designing websites professionally, especially if they're in a large business or have a number of website contracts, they just don't have time to write hard code, especially if something has to be changed very instantaneously, like our website here at Cleveland Community, which is a pretty big site. But if you look at the content right here, and I'm just focusing on this very slowly for you, you see where it says the road to enlightenment. So what's this all about? And there's some paragraphs there. Right now we're looking at a particular style on this screen, but I can choose some different options. Some of the designs over here on the right are Fountain Kiss, a robot named Jimmy. I'll click on a robot named Jimmy and let you see what's happening. The style of the page, the background so to speak, will change, but you notice the road to enlightenment. So what is this all about? Participation. That picture is still there. The content, the pictures, the text, the headings are still there, even though the actual background or layout may be a bit different. Let's click on, I just backspaced right there. I'll click on Under the Sea. Same idea. Here is the design, but again, the road to enlightenment. So what's this all about? Participation are still there. Again, a third one, to give you an idea once again, I'll choose the top one, Fountain Kiss. There's the road to enlightenment. There's so what's this all about? Again, the layout has changed, and the reason it can do that is that the design, the background, the color scheme, the column structure for these different text and image and art pieces are separated from one another. And we haven't done that up to this point in class, but we'll be doing that specifically with this particular site. There are 3 kinds of styles, and I'll just go ahead and mention these. Even though this class is not emphasizing the HTML language, it's really handy if you can even look at this a little bit. Now, for some people, programming is taboo, like math is at CCC, and they're totally afraid of it or just tremendously dislike it. You need to have an understanding of this background in order to really be a good web designer, even if you are just using a software package. And here are the 3 items, and I'll go over these in more detail in application and visual purposes in just a minute. External style, basically, you want to change a single heading or a single paragraph on the entire page. There may be 10 paragraphs or 5 headings, and you want to change exactly one of them. You want to affect only one element, and that is called, in fact, I wrote this wrong. I'm glad I need to change this on the video. I'm glad I caught this. This is called Inline Style. And Inline Style basically means you're just going inside the body tag of the web page. It affects one element. Again, I'll show you this shortly. If you want to go on a broader scale, let's say you want to affect only the one web page, you would use something called an embedded style inside the head section if you were looking at the code. So if I had, if I had 5 headings, this style would affect all 5 headings collectively. If I wanted to affect an individual heading, I would go back up there to the inline style. And this affects only the one page. And then there's the external style sheet, which is what we had in the CSS Zen Garden. And I'll see if I can spell this while I'm typing. Yeah, there we go. And this is an example of where we have one style, and there may be 10 or 20 or 100 different web pages. This external style sheet is a separate document from all the other web pages, arguably the most powerful style to use. It uses something in programming called a link feature, and you can make that one change and it will affect all 5 or 10 or 100 pages in your site. So those are the 3 styles categorically. Let's go back to this web page and we'll actually start looking at some examples. What you want to focus on in this particular exercise is down here in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, you want to look at this Styles panel. That's where the heart of what you're doing will happen. You'll see some color codes associated with this later on. All right, I'm going to follow the instructions and just get you started on this exercise just long enough to get the feel of what's going on. You have to just take this very carefully and don't be in a big rush. I would not do this exercise if you've got a lot of noise in the background, if you've got kids running around, if you've got a really hectic, stressful schedule. It's probably not the best time to do this if you are one of these perfectionist kind of students. It would probably be a bit annoying for you. So let's try this. On 209, I'm going to click anywhere in the title that's called Welcome to Gasden Flooring Week, which hopefully you have on your computer as I'm doing this on the video. If I click anywhere in there, I'm going to click, I'll get the little paragraph code. Remember that we can look at Expression Web in three appearances. We look at the design of the page, which is what you're seeing when you're viewing it on the internet as we're doing now. You can choose code, which shows you the programming language behind the scenes called HTML. And you can look at both screens by clicking the button at the bottom called Split. I'm going to go back to design again just for visual purposes. And if I click anywhere inside this title, you'll see a very tiny little P character called the paragraph header. And if you click that, this is a better way than doing it the Microsoft Office way. Instead of dragging and selecting the title, it's better to click the code associated with it, and that way you'll guarantee that everything works properly. And I'm going to choose what I would do in Microsoft Word. I'll choose the word bold, or the letter B at the top of the screen, and that's going to make the heading bold. And nothing particular is going to happen in that panel down at the bottom. I'm going to click italics right now as well, the I, and it will be italics. Now, this time, if I wanted to restore the original format, I could click on those and just take them back, so it will be back to normal. In step 5, I'm going to click the center button, just like I do in Word, but what's going to happen this time is I'm going to see something down at the bottom of the screen. When I click on center, what's going to happen at the bottom of the screen, you're going to see a green colored dot with a circle around it. And that's a very big deal with Microsoft Expression Web or another software package very much like it called Dreamweaver. What happens is we now have a particular style there. Now, Expression Web 3 and Expression Web 4 have some very slight differences. So again, if you are a very exact words kind of person, you may see the word Style 1 in your book, and it may say Auto Style 1 on your page on the screen. Don't let that part bother you. As long as you've got the gist of this, you're going to be okay. Now this is creating a style right here, and again, if I were to look at the code in the background, I'm going to split the screen. Hopefully you can see this. There will be something at the very top of your screen. This will be called, this is a special style, and you'll see something right here. I'm going to see if I can highlight it for you. And it will give you the definition of this style, and it will say text align center. That's a special code that's built in when this is chosen. And again, I can undo this by just clicking the center button again, and that code and the centering will go away. I'll get this back in design mode so you can see what's happening. You're going to typically look for a color code on that style sheet. That little button, I'll show it to you one more time. That little button could be a green circle, it could be blue, it could be red. It depends on the kind of style that's being done. We're going to start out by taking one of our elements and creating a style using it. And I'm going to go over to page 210, 211, and I'm going to create an H1. We've done this before. I'll go ahead and undo this one, and we'll be back to normal. And when I select the Welcome to Gasden Flooring Week, as I've done just now, I'm going to go this time and click the style arrow on the common toolbar. And if I go over here to the style arrow on the common toolbar, that's the one that says paragraph. If I drop that down, I can click H1, and that makes it a heading. Heading 1 right there. We've done this before, so it should be nothing different. There are 5 headings on page 212 in your book. There are 5 headings labeled Monday through Friday that we're also going to select using this drop-down menu, and we're going to choose heading 2 for those. So if I go to page 212 and click on Monday, this part's not really challenging, and it isn't, it shouldn't be. And I'm going to choose heading 2 for all 5 of these. I hope this will be pretty easy to follow in the book. This should be pretty straightforward. I'm going to choose all 5 of these, remembering that heading 2 has a slightly smaller look than heading 1. There's an automatic font and an automatic font size associated with each of these. And I'll choose those right there. So I have 5 heading 2 items, and if I were to click on there, you would actually see the H2 code associated with each one of those, and you would see the H1 associated with the ones at the top, with the title at the top. Alright, now if I click outside the headings, again, nothing is showing in my styles right now. But that's about to change. We're going to look at some properties that are associated with Cascade style sheets, or CSS for short. And again, the purpose behind all this, you may be thinking, well, why can't I just choose yellow or blue or centering like I normally do in Word, or even in our previous Expression Web exercises? The idea is to learn this concept that's more prevalent in professional web page design, in that we try to separate the design, the layout, all those color features and stuff from the content, and that way if we're going to make a change, we don't have to hand code or hand change each page individually. We can do that globally, and it makes it much faster and much more efficient. The heart of doing this, and this is as far as I'll go in this first video, is to learn about a special dialog box that you'll see all the way through this exercise, this chapter. On page 215, we'll start with the font family. And again, I realize, as you do, that I could select text, and I can click on the font, and I can click on the font size, and get a lot of this stuff taken care of already. We're going to do this in a different way using the CSS Cascading Style Sheet method. Again, page 215, I'm going to click on heading 1 at the very top. And if you click the tab, it selects it for you, the little H1 tab. Now what's going to happen now, we're going to go over to this panel, and I'm going to choose an option that says New Style. It's in blue letters. When you click New Style, you'll get a dialog box that I jokingly call Walmart. Now one thing you want to notice very carefully about this box that the book doesn't necessarily emphasize, you want to be sure you're careful about that little period at the beginning where it says selector up at the top. Sometimes you'll need that period, sometimes you won't, so be very careful about that when you are working through it. You won't need it at this point. Excuse me. What's going to happen now, you will notice that in the dialog box, if I click the selector arrow that drops down, I have some options that will be in alphabetical order, special HTML code vocabulary, and down in the H's I can choose H1. It says I'll define this particular feature in the current page. And I'm going to choose an option. There are several categories here. I can change fonts, I can change borders and colors. There are a lot of things I can change here. If I go down to font family and click the drop down arrow as it says on page 216 in step 5, I can choose which font I want. Again, if you don't know this, the reason that there are a group of fonts right here, unlike the computers of the old days, many computers didn't have all the fonts on them. They're pretty standard now, but what basically happens here, it says there's a list here. For example, when I choose Gil Sans, as the book says, the word sans is French sans, which means without. It says if your computer has the Gil Sans font, use it. If it doesn't, it will use Gil Sans NT. If it doesn't have that, Calibri. It's like a substitute situation, like, you know, this is my alternate person, or this is my substitute teacher, so to speak. And that's just a priority list, basically. When I choose that, it will give me the font family that I've selected. I can always change that with the arrow if I make a mistake. And you'll see a description of it. And you'll also see, it will say font family. That's a special code that will be in place right here at the bottom when the HTML code is implemented. This is an actual preview of what your page would look like had this been selected. Now, once I look at that preview window, I can see what it looks like. If I'm not satisfied with it, I can make a change. When I click OK, I want you to look over at the Styles panel over on the bottom right. When I click OK, notice that H1 now has a blue circle with another circle around it. That's indicating that there's a particular style. And the reason it doesn't say auto style or auto style 1 or style 1 is because I applied this to a particular element in my document. And you'll notice possibly some difference. You'll notice that the font has changed right there. If I were to look at the code behind the scenes, you will see at the very top of the screen that there's a style. I don't like the way this is written. It's a little bit not so neat, but I'm going to make this change slightly just for my purposes. It may be hard to see on the screen, but you will notice that I've got a style definition right here. This is called an embedded style. If I look at my definitions again, this affects, it's inside the head section of one web page. And that style says that the H1 element will have a font family of Gill Sans. It's got the list right there, and that's the definition behind the scenes. I'll go back to the design so you can see what happened. Now, if I want to edit or change this style, I could do this very easily. I'm going over to page 217 by going over, and instead of making a brand new style, I can go in and modify the style that I already have by just right-clicking. You know about right-clicking from your basic computer concepts. So I'm going to right-click the H1 style, the little green, the little blue circle, and choose. I could even delete this if I made a mistake. But I'll click Modify Style. I'll get my little Walmart box, the dialog box, right back again. And pardon my headphones for making the noise. They're slipping off my head today. And if I wanted to modify that style, I could do that by either changing my font family, or in this particular case on page 217, step number 3, I want to change the font size. Now, usually we see a list of numbers, but because these are associated with this special HTML code, and also, believe it or not, with screen readers for visually challenged people, this is more advantageous to look at something that looks more like t-shirt sizes, large, extra large, double X, small, etc. We're going to choose X large according to your book. And when I click that, I'll have two definitions down here at the bottom, not only font family, but font size, the code behind the scenes. I'll see the preview right here. You may or may not be able to tell the difference. I'm going to scoot this over so you can look at the word welcome to at the top. And when I click OK, you're going to see a slight decrease in the size. And again, if I click on this title and I look at the code, I'm splitting the screen. The code that's now at the top has two definitions for heading 1 that affect the whole page. And any occurrence of H1 will make this happen. Now, you can continue and make these changes for the rest of H1. You're going to make sure that you do this. Now, what I'm doing right now is something completely extra, has nothing to do with the web page, so I'm going to undo it. But I want to show you the concept, give you an idea. Let's say I was going to change the H2 style. I'll click on Monday right here, and I'm going to scroll up to the top of the page so you can see it. Scroll? How about scroll? I'll click on this and click on H2, and I'm going to define, and this is again not in your exercise, but I'm going to click New Style, and I'm going to choose H2 just to show you how this works. By going down here to H2, and I'm going to change the font color to red, just to give you an idea. And the computer will put a special hexadecimal code, FF0004 for it. It's not going to put the word red, although you could. Now watch what happens when I click OK. Not only will it change the Monday header, but it will change all 5 of them. Again, the reason being, even though I only clicked the Monday one, this is a definition for H2. I'm saying to the computer every H2 in the document needs to be red, the red color. And that's what's happening. If I were to go back up here and split my screen and look up here at the definition, it's at the very top of the screen. This is what we call the embedded style. Notice that H2 has a definition, and that's what's associated with it. If I didn't like that style or I wanted to get rid of it, rather than having to undo, especially if I'm 20 or 30 keystrokes into my document, I can simply go over here to H2, right-click it, and delete that style. It will confirm it, make a little noise in this case, and I'll go back to normal. This is at least hopefully a beginning state for you to get started on this particular tutorial. If you have any questions, please contact me.